will give countries the time to negotiate a deal in this 3 week period. And if they do not manage to do that, then they will be imposed with new tariffs. Anyway, just to get things clear, that could be the source of some volatility this week, of course. I think the getting as many trading deals as possible is a positive development, and if trading negotiations fail, that could increase sell pressure in the short term in the market. I do not expect the same sell-off, sell pressure, panic in the market as in April, because tariffs are known. They have been priced in to a certain extent, but there might be some surprises that may come in that can lead to some volatility on lower time frames. But I personally don't believe that they can be the source of a major shift in the market or change the structure of either Bitcoin or the S&P 500 drastically. Speaking of the S&P 500, obviously very, very strong in the last few weeks, almost no dip given. Very nice if you bought in April with me or any other trader who has been buying stocks. But as you know, I've been slowly moving out of my positions, at least the short to midterm positions, whatever I have for like super, super long term that, can serve as my pension money. I don't change that. I think this was a very nice opportunity to add to those long term bags. But when it comes to short term, midterm trading, I'm slowly getting out. A few reasons for that. First of all, we bought at a weekly oversold area. And this does not necessarily have to do much with the macro. This is just the TA side of decision that led to this action. We bought at the weekly oversold area, right? We've always been saying we don't get this any day. In bear markets, we look at weekly bullish divergences like this. 2022 was a bear market due to inflation rising and the Federal Reserve hiking interest rates, right? That also led to the bear market in the crypto space. So when there's a bear market and there's a controlled selling, we will always look for divergences, and especially if you get this on a weekly, I mean, it's a major buy. Of course, for stocks, it didn't really matter if you bought here at the first peak or here at the second peak, but if you really, really want to be pico bottom, then you wait for the divergence. So we got the weekly oversold, now slowly approaching towards weekly overbought. Not there yet, but the higher we grow, the lower the returns become. And this is not crypto, right? When I enter a stock, I want to catch at least a 50 to 100% move. I don't enter a stock to trade at 2 or 3% higher. I want to get entries that I can swing for a few weeks, months, even years. And the higher this rises, the less I am inclined to enter these positions. And I'm not always in a pressure to be in a stock position. I will be in a position at any asset, in any asset when I get the right trigger. For now, I'm getting a few signs, no major selling signals, no major top signals. I still think this can rise a bit more in the next few weeks. But as I said, the returns become less and less appealing for me as a mid to long term or higher time frame trader, especially since the weekly RSI is also coming slowly towards overbought. Secondly, looking at the volatility index, I think retail is getting a bit too comfortable buying stocks. When the masses get comfortable buying things, I'm out or I look for exits. You know my style. I like to buy the panic. I like to buy the blood in the markets, which is why we use the VIX. And specifically, it's rising above 50 towards the 60 area for educating our bias in April. We had the same scenario on August 5th. And obviously, during the COVID crash, that's unprecedented. That's something that happens rarely. Nevertheless, mass is getting a bit too comfortable buying, means I slowly scale out. And apart from this, the fear and greed index is at extreme greed. Yes, it can stay at extreme greed for a long time. That is completely true. Nevertheless, it's still an area for me to be taking profits on short to mid-term positions and wait for something like this, which may not come easily. It will probably not come anytime soon. It can come sometime in the next months, maybe next year. But whenever that happens, I find it appropriate to be entering stocks. As I said, I don't have to be in a position every day, every week, every month. Stocks is something I trade when I see appropriate entries. Now I'm seeing appropriate signals for taking profits. Very, very happy with what I personally bought. You know, we bought Nvidia around here. I think I took profits. Correct me if I'm wrong, but somewhere around 155, 156. So really nice trade. I don't care if it, let's say, gives me another um let's say 10%. I couldn't care less about this when I caught a 75%. You know what I mean? Because that's the scalp, and I'm not interested in scalping stock markets. I'm interested in scalping cryptocurrencies, also because of the fees. So quite clear. Historically speaking, we've always, or in many cases, seen a September dip. We talked about it here, for instance, in 2023, 2024. We got one which was a bit more shallow. So this is a weekly time frame, and we got a very small dip. But that's also because on August we already got a very big dump, right? Because of the crash or the fear of the crash of the Japanese stock market here. Was it here? Yeah, here. So the September dip was a bit more shallow. Given that the S&P 500 has grown this much over the summer, 30% up from our buy zone, I tend to believe that the September dip, if it comes, could be a bit deeper, speaking of 5 to 10%, and then we will reevaluate new entries into stock positions. But now, mostly out. I'm still in Tesla. Still in Tesla, mostly from our April buys. The recent buys have been stop break even at 297, where my average entry was. But yeah, mid to long term, I'm not really concerned about this. So I'm going to hold my Tesla long term, and that's like the pension fund, if you want to call it that way. So that's the plan with stock markets. We will see also how the tariff developments play out this week. I think they will be very critical to the dollar as well. You know, our lovely chart for the dollar. Look at the reaction already. A weekly perspective coming towards range lows. Are rate cuts in September already priced in? Could be, because the sell pressure on the dollar has been quite big in the last 2 weeks and months. Now, if we get new trade deals, I think certainty comes back, or relatively back to a certain extent. The certainty regarding the US economy, right? Because the decline of the dollar was also markets basically pricing in a recession and an economic slowdown, and that would then lead to the Federal Reserve easing. If trading deals come in, especially with important trading partners like Germany or Japan or the European Union overall, South Korea, then the sell pressure will decrease from the dollar. And it is already, from a TA perspective, at a zone where it is considered as support and where it is considered cheap, right? So I still do not exclude the possibility that we will get a nice reaction from the dollar from these lows. I personally do not see big signs yet that would suggest that the dollar could lose these range lows and go for lower. It is not completely impossible. It will depend on a few decisions made by Trump in the next few weeks. But as of now, I have reasons to believe that these range lows could lead to a reaction of the dollar. Now, will this lead to the top of the crypto market? Not necessarily. As I said, the impact of the dollar on Bitcoin and speculative assets in general is always a bit delayed. And certainly there are other macro developments that will eventually lead to Bitcoin topping out. It is not just the dollar, it is also, for instance, central banks, other central banks pivoting their monetary policy approach, right? So it cannot only be attributed to the dollar, but certainly at some point the dollar bottoming around these levels can bring more competition for liquidity into the markets, and that can then also limit the growth potential of speculative assets, especially altcoins. So we will keep monitoring this. Cheap dollars, my long-term plan remains unchanged. The dollar will rise to this level or this level unless this is lost, and then that idea is invalidated. But as long as this support holds, the demand for the dollar long term will always increase. The US being the strongest economy in the world, there's one reason why the Federal Reserve was able not to cut interest rates, right? I've said it many times, and why other central banks, like the Chinese central banks, have been easing for months and months and months, right? There's a very, very clear reason behind that, and that's because the US economy is the strongest one, globally speaking. So if this plays out in the next few months, years, maybe even into 2027, get rid of my expensive dollars, put it into Bitcoin or equities, depending on where they stand at that point, and then ride everything lower. Hey, Nori. Cheers, legend. Pat, good to see you. Only Germans here? Man, Nodi's Albanian. I don't call Nodi Swiss. I don't accept that. Once born an Albanian, always an Albanian. Look at Tupi pretending to be German. The Afghani. I'm German by heart. All right, that's it from the macro side of things. I think pretty clear. Like, it's pretty clear what we're looking at in terms of macro developments this week and throughout the month. The S&P 500, the dollar should be all clear. We have a few bond auctions this week, which can lead to some volatility in the markets if there's very low demand. That can lead to yields spiking up. So be aware of that. There's one on Wednesday, one on Thursday. Nothing major in terms of establishing the macro direction of the market, but could be something on lower time frames that can lead to some volatility. Let's look at the crypto market. Weekly time frame, nothing has changed. Still a bearish divergence, has not been invalidated yet. You know the drill. Personally, before establishing a more mid to long term bias towards Bitcoin, I want this to be invalidated. No weekly close above 111, 112K. For me, means I approach the market from a day to day basis. And honestly, it's been pretty clean and easy to trade Bitcoin. And what's this? And with the help of Bitcoin, also other cryptocurrencies, if you only paid attention to the 30-minute. And if you've been at my strategy workshop last week, you know we have talked about divergences and how important they are before taking any setups. I personally use the 30-minute at least. There are obviously divergences printed all the time on more lower time frames, like 15 minutes or 5 minutes. But that's for scalping. I'm not interested in that. You long a 5-minute bullish divergence on Bitcoin, and you have to sell once the 5 minute is reset, and that can happen at a $200, $300 move, and that's not something I'm really interested in doing. I like to trade swing positions, and if we look at the 30-minute, for example, we have had a few examples in the last few weeks where Bitcoin has printed a 30-minute divergence. First has been late June 22nd. Perfect here in the context of a. There we go again with this annoying thing. Okay. Can we do this? Yeah. Okay. June 22nd, 8-hour, 4-hour oversold Bitcoin on lower time frames, printing a 30-minute divergence. Obviously, since Bitcoin was oversold on more higher time frames, this led to a bigger move on BTC. Yes, it did take a lot of time, but eventually it led to a 5K move. Then A few days later, and remember, you don't always need to be in a position, right? You can wait for clear triggers, high conviction setups, and it's better to take one high conviction setup than take 3 or 4 low conviction setups. A few weeks later or a few days later, another div right here. I can't remember if I longed this or the June 22nd one, but one of them for sure. This led to a nice pump towards here. 2-hour divergence on Bitcoin. Perfect. I shorted Ethereum on this. Then on Friday, so this 2-hour bearish divergence led to a drop in the market. Not a full hour, not a full 2-hour RSI reset, but we did get another 30-minute div on BTC going into the weekend. And if you get this, the invalidation is just super easy. Let's say long here or long here, it doesn't really matter. You might wait for a confirmation, right? So you can even long here after the second 30-minute chart prints. And what is the invalidation? I mean, this could already invalidate the div, right? 0.5%. The thing about these 30-minute divergences is that it's not guaranteed that they play out all the time, but they have a very good hit rate and the invalidation is always really easy. And all you have to care about is RR, right? The return to risk ratio. So if you risk 0.5% or a 0.5% stop loss, then any lower time frame move can significantly multiply that RR, right? So it's already a good trade. It did play out up to the weekend, where we got another bearish divergence. This one was trickier because it was a 3 drive, right? So you could have potentially shorted this here, and I mean, if when it dropped here, you could have put your stop loss at break even. We would have probably taken you out break even, but the risk was managed anyway. But the 3 drive into a Sunday pump led to a nice correction. For now, what I'm personally waiting, and why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because throughout this price action, we had a 2-week and a 1-week and a 1-month bearish divergence on BTC, which we have at the back of our head, right? Always at sight. But that doesn't keep us from trading on lower time frames, right? You should not be saying something like, I'm not longing this 30-minute dip because there's a 1-week bearish divergence, right? And DB said that could lead to a bigger drop. Yeah, it could lead to a bigger drop, but you can still catch some nice trades in between. And this is personally all I'm doing right now, as long as this divergence is in play. Invalidate the divergence, and I turn my focus to more midterm. I zoom out and look for more swing trades. All right, so moving forward, I will basically do the same thing I've been doing with Bitcoin here. 3 drive leading to a nice pullback, especially on a Monday. I don't want to be too soon to be longing this. Of course, if you look at the 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, I don't know, this could lead to a nice divergence and a small pump. But I personally expect something like this, or want something like this. I want it, right? I don't expect it. Even if it doesn't come, I don't care. I'll just wait for the next 30-minute divergence to print, and that's where we'll be looking to short. It's not about always being in a position. It's about being in a position when you get the right setup. So if Bitcoin comes down towards this POC level here, or maybe here, what I will be looking at is the 30-minute divergence printing. No divergence on the 30-minute, and I will not use these POCs for any longs, right? Because because the 30 minutes is oversold doesn't mean that these levels will hold. So I need the divergence to enter a long, or to have a setup where the invalidation is very easy. And apart from that, I don't take any other position if Bitcoin is not giving me a divergence. 30-minute bullish divergence on Bitcoin on the 30-minute, and 30-minute is my style, right? If 15-minute works for you, perfect, use that one. But 30-minute is my style. No divergence on Bitcoin on the 30-minute. I will not be longing anything else. I've given you a very nice example last week. Oops. Here, right? If you haven't been at my strategy workshop because it was a Friday, maybe you've been out enjoying an extended weekend. But here we had a bullish divergence for ETH on the 30-minute, even confirmed to a certain extent, but it didn't play out because Bitcoin hadn't printed the bullish divergence on the same time frame yet, right? So this would have been annoying if you would have longed this, because this could have stopped you out peak or bottom and then just went towards the 2-hour overbought area where it printed the bearish divergence, and it would have been annoying, right? So that's why I personally think it's always good to wait for BTC to form the divergence. Ideally, even the index, an index that you follow, USD dominance is the to go index for everything in the market. Then you can look at something like Total 2 or Total 3 or others if you're more into altcoins. And if you have confluence from Bitcoin and from let's say USDT dominance, then you can long something like Ethereum as well. I'll give you a very good example from the weekend. Here, bullish divergence on BTC, right? Very, very clear, extremely clear at a POC level. And I think we talked about this on stream, right? We said the Bitcoin could actually form a divergence at 107, 100. And this is how it played out. Wow, nice to see. Anyway, 30-minute bullish divergence on Bitcoin. We can go to USDT dominance, where we said our resistance area was at 484-ish, right? We go to USDT dominance. We see, knowing that Bitcoin is printing a bullish divergence on the 30-minute, we see, wow, USDT dominance is doing the same, a bearish divergence on the 30-minute, right? So I might not be interested in Bitcoin. I'm interested in Ethereum because the returns could be a bit bigger. And you go to Ethereum, and what you see for Ethereum, where's Friday? Here. What you see for Ethereum, 30-minute divergence as well. So now you can play this divergence. I'll smack this, I swear. It's driving me nuts. You see the divergence on Ethereum, and you have confluence to take this because you know you're secured by Bitcoin and USDT dominance. If Bitcoin wouldn't have a divergence on the 30-minute, I wouldn't have played this because I could have speculated that it could end up just like this. Right? Just wicking me out, stopping me out, peak or bottom, until Bitcoin formed a divergence here, and it then just went. So I think that's the best strategy for now. If you're trading from day to day, if you are concerned about the weekly divergence on Bitcoin, if you're not entirely sure if that will play out or not, right? And maybe some of these scalps on a 30-minute, let's say this one or this one, can end up being that breakout long, right? So just because this is a 30-minute divergence, of course, usually 30-minute divergences are for scalp positions, but maybe this can end up in being that breakout long, or that nice entry before you get the breakout. And it's always better to hold that position and speculate on a breakout rather than be one of those guys that is responsible for open interest accumulating every time Bitcoin does this. And because open interest accumulates from people trying to catch this breakout, the breakout just fails. If you know what I mean. All right. A lot of people calling for BTC all-time highs this week. You think we get it? Dude, a lot of people calling, consensus calling about a new all-time high. Must be true, right? No, no, man. As I said, I'm a trader that trades after confirmation. I don't care. Let it do an all-time high. I hope it does. I'm long from Friday, so let it do an all. Everybody calling for a new all-time high. I hope they get it, honestly. Especially if it's people from the group. If you're long, I hope you get it. I don't really care. I'm a confirmation trader. So once I get confirmation, I'll enter a position. You were gone for 2 minutes. What was the last thing you heard about BTC all-time high? I'm a confirmation trader. Yeah, man, I was just saying, like, just answering to the question from Orphex. Do I think an all-time high is possible? I don't. As I said, I don't really care. I don't really care. Let it break out, then we look for lower time frame signals. What I would really love to see is that it really breaks out. But I think that it will break out when least people expect it. When everybody calls for a breakout, you know what I think about consensus. I'm not a consensus trader. But let's say it does break out. What I really want to see is this weekly divergence getting invalidated. Or monthly. Monthly is a bit more difficult, but at least the weekly. Let it invalidate the weekly. This one. Let it invalidate it. Let's say does this, then closes somewhere around here, and it invalidates the weekly. This is the best case scenario you can get. Yes, of course, you may miss that pump that may emerge from this breakout, but yeah, doesn't matter. I think the opportunities that would come from this invalidation of the weekly divergence are way bigger than the opportunity you would have gotten if you caught the breakout. So I don't know if you got this or not. If you look at more higher time frames, there are no. I mean, apart from the weekly, I mean, like the 8 hour or the 4 hour, there are no major signs that Bitcoin is showing weakness yet. But let's say we get a breakout, Bitcoin does something like this, forms a range, grinds a bit higher, and at some point just forms the bearish divergence. Then we short this. And then if it resets that at the previous all-time high, or the previous week highest weekly close, or the current highest weekly close in that case, and you just buy this. And it may not be as perfect as this, but you will just do the same I just showed you with the lower time frame divergences, right? And then you can basically buy spot or long on a confirmation. Why risk longing now, speculating on this breakout when you don't have any confirmation? I think the time to long was on Friday, and if you long from Friday or from these levels, then you're in a good position to basically see what it does and if it's able to break out or not. As I've said many times, I think I have I think I have a system, an approach to the market that may not be suitable for everyone because, of course, this is a speculative market. But just because it is a speculative market, we don't have to speculate on anything, basically. We can just speculate on our triggers being correct whenever we take a position. And no triggers, there's no reason to speculate. You know what I mean? Confirmation, basically. All confirmation based. All right. A lot of TED talking, but I think that was needed. So let's just quickly look at our indexes. But nothing major has changed. I mean, from last week, we have basically said that there are no major signs of weakness yet. If you look at something like total market cap, in May we had a daily bearish divergence. If I had something like this, I would have said there's no way Bitcoin breaks out to new highs. For now, I don't see it yet. Daily 12-hour not overbought, 8-hour not overbought, 4-hour not overbought. So I don't see many big indications that we're close to a local top yet. So I cannot claim that, to be honest. Can I ask how you TP on the RSI reset? Yeah. I'll show you a very good example. So I did short Ethereum last week here on this 2-hour bearish divergence, right? So to decide where I want to TP, well, first of all, I didn't follow this because I had a pretty big position and the PNL totally confused me, and I did close it somewhere around here. But ideally, what I should have done, and maybe this is a lesson to me as well, is that if I wasn't a short here, I should have waited until Ethereum and Bitcoin starts printing a bullish divergence and ideally close my short position here. No need to close a 2-hour bearish divergence position without having at least a 15-minute div, but a 2-hour one, you don't really look at the 30-minute. You at least look at you don't look at the 50 minutes. You at least look at the 30-minute. So if you entered a short here, you could have TP'd here. If you entered Bitcoin on a long here on the 30-minute div, you could have exited it here on the 2-hour bearish divergence, and this area would have been your TP. So I hope that helps. I got you, Merzi, and I'm sorry for the lagging. All right, indexes, total market cap clear. Everything else basically looks the same on higher time frames. Total 2. I think the big level for total 2 to reclaim to have a proper run on Ethereum and altcoins is this 1.26, 1.28 area. Reclaim this and we'll at least move towards 1.5 trillion. That could probably bring Ethereum back to like 3,400, something around that. Here again, daily RSI above 50. I think as long as this index holds this 1.1 trillion area, we are good. Find acceptance below, and I would at least expect a drop towards this level here and potentially a new low. But as I said, no signs of major weakness yet. I will be looking for bearish divergences to be formed here. And then I'll decide if I take any shorts swing shorts or not. Others, more or less the same. 240 billion is a resistance area. I said last week that 232 to 222 is a support area. Lose that or lose the 220 billion area, and I think the index drops at least towards 215 and potentially even make new lows. But the big area here to be flipped is this 240, 250 zone. Daily RSI a little bit trapped below 50, so this is also something you can look at, reclaim. You can set an alert at like 52 or 53 and then see how the day closes. And that's your trigger for more upside. One index that's specifically interesting is USDT dominance. We talk about this a lot, but I personally find this very, very helpful. If all of these indexes might be confusing and you don't want to use all of them, just use Bitcoin and USDT dominance for any setup. Last week here on Thursday, where many were expecting a breakout from Bitcoin, we got this 2-hour bull diff at this diagonal trend line, just as Bitcoin was printing the 2-hour bearish divergence as well. So it was, this is where I took the ETH short, right? So we had triple confluence from USDT dominance, from Bitcoin, and from Ethereum. Really nice divergence led to a small push up to our 4.85 area. As I said, we had a 30-minute divergence in this zone. The market pumped into Sunday. Then we had that 3 drive, which led to a pullback. And now on more higher time frames and even lower time frames, I mean, I'm still looking for another 30-minute bearish divergence on USDT dominance to scalp long. No divergence on USDT dominance and Bitcoin, no trades. Especially when the market is selling off slowly, right? When there's a flush, divergences don't matter because the market grabs so much liquidity that it doesn't give you time, or it doesn't give altcoins or Bitcoin time to form a divergence at all. But when there's a slow sell-off, you always look for these divergences. On more higher time frames, USDT dominance is very interesting because it looks a lot like the uptrend that was formed from January to April. Of course, on lower time frames, not at the same scale, but it does look like a huge bear flag to me for now. And a bear flag, what it usually does, so we have the diagonal trend line here and something like this here. Usually what a bear flag does is that at some point it just breaks down from this level here and then leads to a greater drop and a bigger push upside for the market. Now your job is to understand this bear flag, not mess it up, because if you mess it up here, you can risk missing this breakdown at some point. Now, whether this 4.85% area will be the last top before the breakdown, or whether we will test higher levels on this bear flag, that's to be seen. For now, we have a few signs that USDT dominance is showing some weakness with lower highs being printed and that 30-minute divergence that I mentioned. But yeah, find acceptance above this level, and I think we will get at least this year, eventually even higher, maybe 520, and go for a full range high retest in the market. I would fade that pump for USDT dominance if it was to come. And with that, I mean that I would be a big buyer in the market. If that was to come, obviously that would mean a bigger drop in the market, which for now seems a bit unrealistic because, as I said, we don't have these higher time frame signs of weakness in the market yet. When we get them, we will talk about them as we always do, right? You know that I don't hesitate at all to turn bearish and be cautious at around resistance areas. But for now, I don't have them. I don't really have them, and that's why I'm personally trading more on a day-to-day basis. So we will see how this develops. No bearish divergence yet on any time frame that is relevant. I mean, apart from that on Friday, right? We will see if we can get another push for USDT dominance this week and another drop for Bitcoin dominance a bit later, so that Bitcoin dominance can form that 30-minute divergence and USDT dominance can form that 30-minute bearish divergence. And if it happens at around our resistance areas, then even better. Even better. So that's what I'm looking at. Bitcoin dominance, higher time frame hasn't changed anything. I don't see any reason why for now this should be making new highs. As I said, a weekly bearish divergence and sub that a daily, a 12-hour and an 8-hour bearish divergence. Very bearish signals for Bitcoin dominance. So unless there's any unexpected macro development happening or any new geopolitical tension, I don't expect this to make new highs. I don't care what it does on lower time frames. I care about it on more higher time frames. One thing that you can monitor here is the daily RSI in the 50 area, which is serving as support for now. Start finding acceptance below this level, and this daily divergence will fully play out, and we will reach at least a daily oversold area and then maybe print some divergences here, and that's what we can use to try and predict a higher time frame reversal on Bitcoin dominance. But for now, on higher time frames, I don't yet expect any new highs for this index. If that changes, of course, we will discuss it, we will analyze it, and we will report it. Uh, Not trying to predict it per se. I act on confirmations, and if I see any invalidation of this or a reset of this div, then I'm more than happy to readjust my thoughts on this index. So I think we covered pretty much everything. Let's spend some time on questions, comments. I don't know if I missed anything in the chat. XRP short, 30 minutes. Let's see. Could be a div here, but it's not confirmed yet. I would want it to be a bit wider. Like let's say it formed here, right? Like in 2 hours or so. I don't really like them when they are so tight. But yeah, I mean, if you have a 30-minute bear div forming here, then at a POC level, monthly level, you could as well take a short with a very easy invalidation, Pat. But I'm sure you already saw this. 4 hour oversold, overbought. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that adds confluence for sure. Yeah, the invalidation is here is very easy. If you see a 30-minute forming, then you can take it for sure. Not yet. It's not a bear div yet. We would need a close here above this level, like two 30-minute closes above this, and ideally below this last POC level, right? That's also something you want to see. But just be a bit careful with XRP shorts because it acts a bit weird today. I mean, the strength on XRP, maybe it's news related or something like that. But yeah, that's a setup I would take. What's Bitcoin doing? Yeah, this is my problem, right? My problem is that usually, and that's just my system, is that I only short, as I said earlier, when Bitcoin gives me a 30-minute bear div. Now, Bitcoin is almost oversold while XRP is doing this. It makes the setup a bit riskier. And that's not something I take just because the divergence on Bitcoin is missing. But yeah, I mean, the div here could be interesting if you want to take it. Do you wait until the div is confirmed or not? I put the limit into this is a bit risky, right? Putting a limit in anticipation of the div. Yes, it can. You know, the thing is that you can be lucky, catch this last POC here, right? Which gives you a Pico entry, and then the divergence forms a bit later. But the risk is that, yeah, you can get filled on your short here, but then it doesn't form a divergence at all. You know, and then you're not shorting a valid bearish divergence on the 30-minute. So I think it's always a bit better if you wait for the divergence to form. Here on the 2-hour, for example, I did short. I mean, I did short Ethereum at 2628. I could be wrong, but I think maybe I got filled in the first one. Maybe I got filled on the first one, but the second one is the confirmation for me. You know what I mean? The second, I mean, the first 2-hour close of course gives you confirmation, right? But then the second one gives you double confirmation. And in here, the invalidation again would have been peanuts. 1% on ETH, nothing. I can take these stop losses any day. I don't care because I need just one trade to make it all back. Anything else, guys, you want me to look at? I think we covered pretty much everything. If there's something unclear, just let me know. We got a nice pullback on the S&P 500 today. What are stocks doing? Tesla. Yeah, Tesla going through some turmoil because of Elon Musk being so politically active, right? Investors don't like that. Because Tesla as a company and as a car manufacturer is not doing super great. And if you see its CEO being more active on a political scene than on its company, they don't like that, of course. In long term, I think they're fine because they don't only do electrical vehicles. But we'll see. If I ever get Tesla back here, 220, I'll add a lot to my bag. Say we get a discount on the S&P 500 because of all the greed and all the longs piling in. This is nice. Did you say when you enter a trade based on 30-minute div, you would TP based on 30-minute div, and if you entered based on, you would exit based on? That's the ideal case, but we don't always get that net. As I said, for ETH, we got a 2-hour bearish divergence where I entered on the short. And then as I said, I did TP a bit earlier, but on the 30-minute divergence here, you could have TP'd. And eventually, maybe this even leads to a full 2-hour RSI reset, right? That's actually possible. For example, if ETH drops down here, then your short fully plays out, but maybe you want to close a bit early and then reshort here. So it just depends a bit on your strategy. But let's say you shorted here and you did not take any profits here when it pumps all the way to this level. It's a bit annoying because you did round trip a lot of profits, right? And yeah, of course, then it can play out, but you could have taken profits here, then reshorted here. But of course, in hindsight, it's always a bit easier. But yeah, the most ideal case is, let's say, 4-hour bear div to 4-hour RSI reset on the same time frame. Are you still holding Google? Yes, I am. XLM. Is this an XRP follower? Probably, right? And just judging on the name and the price action. 45-minute time frame. Who does that? That sounds so inappropriate. This is too wide for a 30-minute div for me. A bit too wide. What is it 1 hour saying? Yeah, 1 hour, yes. 1 hour is nice. Here. At a POC level. Really, really nice short up here. Here, you got the 1 hour close. Then you got the next 1 hour. And you could have entered here. Down over 2%. So if you would have want to buy this, would wait for at least a 30-minute RSI reset. 1 hour's bonus. You're waiting for the 2 hour? Oh yeah. I see. You saw this before me. 2 hour bear div as well. Very clean. Yeah, I mean you can hold if you're short on this, and if you stop some break even, you can, or even if you want to play out the invalidation, it's rather easy. But always check all time frames, right? Because if you're too stuck into the 2 hour RSI reset idea, and you don't check the 30-minute, then you just end up round tripping your profits, right? Because you didn't check the 30-minute that printed the bullish divergence, where Bitcoin did print the bullish divergence as well. But yeah, good eye. Good eye. One of the worst looking charts, by the way, in crypto is Pepe. I mean, counter argue me, but this to me is like one of the biggest bear flags I've ever seen. And if Bitcoin fails to do that breakout, this will break down so badly. Wouldn't be surprised to get 818 at some point. I wanted to short Pepe last night, but I was sleeping when it formed this 30-minute divergence. I gave out the idea in fundamentals. I said if you guys get a 30-minute div here, look for a short. And we did get it. Being aware of how the higher time frame structure looked like, I really wanted to take this one as a swing short. So I would have probably entered here at this last POC. Some point went down 4%. Now this would have been a nice hedge. Would have been a nice hedge based on higher time frame structure analysis and then lower time frame divergence analysis. Not too late for that. Pepe looks great. I don't know, man. Weekly. I can't unsee this, man. I can't unsee this. Will depend a lot on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin breaks out and Ethereum gets a catch-up phase, it could pump. But as long as Bitcoin has not broken out and this is printing this bear flag, I'm not really interested in it. Look at this, pretty clear. Why don't you use the toolbar in TV? You always have to go to the left bar. Well, what do you mean with that? Somebody asked me about Sui, right? Oh, favorite your tools. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm learning something new every day. Sui, higher time frame. My thoughts did not change at all. Still looks pretty good. Still looks pretty good. I think it's good as long as it is above. I mean, ideally, I want to hold this box here, but below 264, I think this idea would get invalidated. But will be dependent on Bitcoin, of course. Everything will be dependent on Bitcoin if Bitcoin is able to break out or not. I think this week we'll get this boulder from BTC, and if we get it, I might buy some spot just so I'm hedged in case that it does break out. But I need the 30-minute boulder first. I would do we have a stream after this one? Can you check? If not, then I can look at with Tupi. Do you know that? Tariq? Oh, if Tariq is streaming, then I have to wrap it up, guys. I don't want to be disrespectful. Let's see. Uh, 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 Oh yeah, Tariq is streaming. Yeah, okay. All right, guys, I'll have to wrap it up. I think we discussed many things. We'll have more of these streams going on. I'll try to do some spontaneous ones as well. I hope they're helpful to you guys. Let me know on the fundamentals if there are any questions. Thank you for joining and thank you for engaging in the chat. Have a nice rest of the week and stay safe trading. Take care, guys.